Okay guys, we're going to show you how to get ready for winter if you are growing tree ferns. Okay, first of all, we're going to start with the Cyathea cooperi. These are Australian tree ferns. Definitely not foolproof in this climate. I bought these ones at the grocery store probably, I'm going to say more than half a decade ago. They're starting to form trunks on them. They have a narrow trunk and beautiful fronds. Hardiness probably down to about -6 degrees Celsius short term. So around 21 degrees Fahrenheit, something like that. Beautiful. So what I do with these guys, if it's going to get cold, I throw them in the basement. They're in probably 15-gallon pots I put them in. They started out at 1-gallon pots. Here's another one here. They're actually actively growing now. You can see them unfurling fiddleheads, croziers, whatever you want to call them right there. Trunk is here, narrow trunk. And like I say, less cold tolerant than Dicksonia antarctica, which is a Tasmanian tree fern. So these are Australian tree ferns. I think Cyathea australis is going to be hardier than Cyathea cooperi. This is Cyathea cooperi, another one I picked up at a grocery store quite a few years ago. And like I say, it was in a 1-gallon pot. But throw these guys in the basement when it gets cold in the winter. And I don't want to lose them now. They're beautiful plants, and they look really nice out in front of our accommodation here. So if you want to put them in the ground, you're going to have to protect them. You're going to have to maybe use Christmas lights around them, wrap them up, whatever. And don't worry about the fronds. As long as you get that trunk protected and wrapped up warm for winter time, you could overwinter them. But most people in this area grow this one. We're going to show you the Dicksonia antarctica. This one I planted in April 1994. It's a pretty big plant with 6 feet of trunk on it. And I'm not thinking about winterizing a rate yet. I'm just going to show you guys what you can do just before winter, or be prepared before it gets cold. I always watch the weather so you don't risk losing this plant, because these things are pretty slow growers and they're very expensive. I think they're about $20 a trunk inch. So what you're looking at are the fronds. These fronds, this is this year's flush. Last year's flush, they lasted till about, I guess maybe it was July sometime, maybe August. And then they start to turn brown and you cut them all off. So this had a massive crown on it. So you cut them off and I just kind of throw them around the base of the trunk. The trunk consists of roots, okay? The most cold tolerant part of a man fern or tree, Tasmanian tree fern, is the trunk, okay? So the trunk is hardy to about -9 or -10 degrees Celsius, all right? So around 15 degrees Fahrenheit, something like that. The fronds are hardy to about 20 degrees Fahrenheit. And once it starts sticking around that temperature for too long, they're going to start to turn brown. So 20 degrees Fahrenheit is around -6.5 degrees Celsius, something like that. All right, so I don't worry about the fronds. I never really have to worry about the trunk here, although if it's going to get really ugly, you could throw some bubble plastic on it. The most important part of the tree fern to worry about before winter or for winter is the center of the crown, right in there. That's where the fiddleheads unfurl, okay? That is the most tender part of the tree fern. If that freezes, I don't care how big your tree fern is, if that freezes in there solid in a bad winter, your tree fern is toast. So what I do, I take cocoa fiber and I push it down inside there. And then I take some burlap and I put the burlap over top of the cocoa fiber. Then I put some bubble plastic in there and I kind of drape it over to the sides a little bit just so it doesn't get wet in there. And then I just put a little flat rock on there to hold it in. And that's all I do with this thing. If it's going to be a really, really ugly winter, like I say, I could throw a wrap, just one wrap of bubble wrap on that trunk there. But trunk is very cold hardy. And fronds I don't worry about. Even if they freeze off, they're always going to send out new ones once spring comes, all right? So least of your worries, never worry about protecting fronds. I know guys used to protect the fronds and never really worried about the center of the plant. The fronds, are the least of your worries. It's the center of that tree fern you got to be most concerned about. Never let it freeze, okay? So if you're thinking on growing a tree fern, you're in this growing zone. We're in zone 8B, 9A, planted in a sheltered area. This is growing in an alcove, southwest corner of a house. You're very, very sheltered, and it gets a lot of sun. And when you water a tree fern, water it from the top. You can water the trunk, but I always water it through the top, and it wicks down through this trunk, which consists of roots, all right? And they're easy to transplant. You could cut that off with a chainsaw, cut all those fronds off, and then move it like a log, and then stick it in the ground, keep it watered, and it will regrow new fronds. All right, so that is a Tasmanian tree fern. and just letting you know now that it is autumn, just to start thinking about, you know, before the colder weather comes, now you know how to protect one of these things if you end up picking one up at the nursery, all right? A lot of people come to the garden and they love this tree fern. And I believe this is the biggest one on our island and probably the oldest one. The other ones I think have perished now. So this is it. So you'd have to know how to look after them, all right? This was imported from Tasmania in September 1991, and I planted it here. My buddy gave it to me from the Palm Society, April 1994. So it's been in the ground a long time. And if I ever move, guess what? I'm taking that with me. Thanks for watching, guys, and stay tuned for more videos here from Banana J SSI out here in the Gulf Islands, North Pacific.